Okay. Pardon? I think we're now live. Hello! I'm going to have to sing the music because the music's not running. Nothing's running. Hello, everybody. I'm sorry we're late. Well, it wouldn't be this channel without a few technical issues, would it? And it's showing up as Ark of the Covenant now. I don't know why it's showing up as Ark of the Covenant and final drone footage. That's last week's heading, alright? So what we have this week, we have a special, very special guest you can see in the corner there. It's not coming up, it's coming up on my screen. It says live now. Yeah, go refreshing. Refresh. We're in, yeah. Alright, we'll give everyone a few minutes to get going. Huh? Is it there now? Well, it's definitely lively on. Anyway, we've got special guests here. Got no views at all at the moment, so I can see oh no, we've got 9 people online. Oh yeah, people are logging on now. Hello Hugh Evans, hello Les Povey, how do you say that, Les? Evening all. Sorry, I had a few problems tonight. I'm on a different computer, and I've been a bit slow and lazy sorting everything out, and didn't get everything on time. And I've got a special guest here, which is writer, author, Robert Shaw. Excellent. Now the camera's clonked out. It just gets better and better today. Hopefully you can still hear me. And I'm going to try and reboot my camera. Hello, Patrick. Am I moving still on yours, Leon?
Thank you.
I don't think I am. There we go. No, the lights went off. There we go. Leon's trying to run it from an iPad. Oh, it's all of fun. No music as well. Nope, thank you, Leon. Leon, that's replay time. Go on, off you go. Right, there's so much to talk about tonight. It's been such a busy week. Let's go up there so we can see what's going on, and then we can watch a bit of playback on here. So, but that's going to be behind the times. Right, there's so much to talk about. Hang on a second. Alright, okay, yes, we are definitely live. Rob's a bit stuck on the edge of the camera. I'll move you around a bit. How are we doing for logging in? Hello, Patrick Jones. Hey, Finky Stingers is there. Very good. Excellent. Yeah, who else we got? Alan Griffiths, Mandy McCourt, Dean Morgan, Di Carey, Richard Davis. Hello, how are you? I thought you were off the net. I thought you were like doing whatever druids do to chill out for a couple of weeks without any electronics. But you made an exception for me. I'm very honoured and flattered. Right, I've got a few things to talk about this week. First of all, some news about Alan Wilson. I'll come on to that in a second. Again, don't panic or anything, but it's not the best of news. Let's wait for more people to get online, and then which affects Trojan War, but I'll come on to that as well. I also want to say something briefly, which has come up on our Facebook group a couple of times, and I really want to start doing things. I don't like to get political normally, but there's 2 issues I want to talk about just briefly. One is all this dumping that's going on our ancient sites, most noticeably Gethley Gare Common up near Caerphilly, very near me. You can almost see it from the window of my parents' house. It's appalling. And the other one on a similar theme is this new tree planting. Now, I was going to do a show of, it's been such a busy week. There have been so many amazing things that have happened. I had a show planned where I was going to go through all the incidents. I'll just give a few. We've done some fantastic drone footage with David, who came down again. So thank you very much for that, David. He's on his way back to Germany in a couple of days. Very sad, missing me come back. Want to talk about that a bit, so I'm going to have to do some more. Try and squeeze it in. Anyway, let's say hello to a few more people. Hugh Evans. This is good. Wow, nice turn-ups. Everyone's so good, because we weren't around at 5-2 like normal, so I appreciate everyone hanging around and must be refreshing, all that kind of stuff. Think on Minnie Caldwell. Hello. Am I allowed to use your real name or not? I don't know. I'll just I always pen names. I know most of these people now. And Paul Hartel is at A Hart. And Stephen Pole. Stephen came down as well to Wales. Fantastic. Also brought his drone. And we got loads of great pictures. We've been up looking to see exactly where we think Arthur is buried. And hi, Tim Lewis. Yes, he's one of the ones there. We're a little group of us. We're all very excited, and we'll report more on that soon. Because, I don't know, mixed results. Who is behind me? Jarden. Yes, this is author, writer, Robert Shaw, who has a new book coming out, which is going to be published through Britain's Hidden History Group. and it's very relevant to what we do. It's a little bit more recent than normal, and that's going to be the main feature this week. So a little bit different this week. We can look in there. Just say hello, Robert, just quickly.
Hello.
Hello, yeah, nice croaky hello there. Robert's also a singer, as you can maybe not tell from that. Cough it up, son, cough it up. Come nearer, yeah. He's been on the Woodbines. Right, who else we got? Elliot Flynn. Oh, there's loads of people. Robert Pierce, he's off. Excellent. Yeah, Robert was there yesterday. I better mention all the people who were there yesterday. We had Bob Morgan was up, who's like there. We had little cameras. And Lynn came with Bob, and we had Tim there with Ruth. It was wonderful there. The weather's actually improved. I think it's been better in the last few weeks than it has all of August, okay? Well, I think everyone's had a chance to log on now. I'll get talking in a minute. Darren Cole, hello. Oh, Graham King. I also met Graham earlier in the week. We had a wonderful trip. I think in the last week, I think I've been up to Two in a Glow and the Lion's Stone 4 times maybe. I'd be wonderful. All there. Oh, greetings from Massachusetts. There we are. Lone Star Leo. I used to live in Massachusetts. Don't tell too many people. I used to live in Milton, just outside Boston. Boston. I love the way my name was over in America. It's Ross. Ross Broadstock. It's great. Fantastic. Sounds so much better. So, hello, Lone Star Leo. I assume your name's Leo. So, you're back and forth there. There's something in the air at the moment. There's a lot of exciting things going on. It's like this time of enlightenment. I don't like to get too spiritual. Let's stick to the history. But it doesn't have to be completely dry, does it? But it does seem to be a lot of people are finding understanding and new reasons and meanings about everything. And it seems we're moving into very eventful times. All right? So thank you to everyone for the full feedback. If you haven't been watching the videos, I've got loads more going up. And the big difference was I have feedback from various people saying that please can you show us how to get to these places and how you get there. So if you notice the last one, there's a map on there and road directions. And even I could find it. Yes, Les says the golden age. Yes, it does seem that. Hello. Yeah, from Darren and everyone. Right, so we've got a good number of people on board. So that's fantastic. Okay, so, so I'm going to run through the news items quickly. I did a long list of news I wanted to cover. And I want to do a special thank you actually to Mandy McCall, who's made some fantastic finds. She really works so hard on research as part of the group. I don't thank her often enough. Hey, Benny's there. Hello, Benny. You like the videos? Yeah, if you haven't seen my interview with Benny last week, please watch that. It was great. He's like a pro. He knows how to do this properly. And I was so honoured to be on his show, okay? So thank you for that. Right, watching me blundering through in amateur fashion. Right, so a couple of things Mandy found out about various hoards of coins and finds, and I was going to discuss whether or not they're Roman or British, but we got other things tonight, which I'll come on to in a second. Yeah, there's loads of comments already about this 2020 being a year of, 2020, like 2020 vision, people seeing stuff, revelation. I don't want to get too religious about it or anything, but William from... He doesn't have the Boston accent. But or too spiritual, but it's definitely a time when people are open for learning, and they feel like a lot of information which has been hidden for a long time is being revealed, and we're finding out more stuff all the time. I can hardly keep up, and wait to hear what Robert's got to tell us about. That'll blow your socks off. No pressure, Robert. You haven't got any socks on. So there we are. His socks are already blown. Look. And my socks are off.
I'm ahead of you on
the
socks.
My socks are off as well, mate.
Wow.
Our socks are already blown off, all right?
We've blown each other's socks off already.
So if you just bear with me a minute then, Robert. Right, the first thing is, I got some, it's sad news, but don't panic too much, but I was due to go and see Wilson and Blackett this week to get the new Trojan War books signed. And they are coming back from the printers. They're guaranteed by midday Tuesday, and I was supposed to go up straight after, so we cut it really fine. We spent a lot of time getting the books as good as we could possibly get them, so we couldn't leave it any later. And then, of course, Alan's is having to go into hospital, which is... No, it's not that serious, hopefully. But it's kind of a checkup type thing. And you know, with the lockdown and that, getting to hospital has been very, very difficult. Lots of appointments have been postponed and whatever. Let's not get political, eh? But it's a difficult time to be an old person. For lockdown reasons, mainly. So, not really sure what to do, so I still don't know if I'm going to be going to Newcastle this week or not. Because also I'm a little bit nervous. Well, not just me, but Barham as well. You know, he is elderly. Alan is 88 years old. And whatever you think about COVID and all that kind of stuff, he has been isolated for a few months. And I'm nervous about just turning up. So if I went, I might not even go in. But the whole thing is a bit of a mess at the moment. I might just even give him a cold, you know. If you've been isolated for that long, you're pretty vulnerable. So anyway, the plan is, like I say, Trojan War books are printed. They're just on the courier now, coming this way, okay? So what we're going to do, because the people who pre-ordered get signed copies, so I don't want them to wait any longer because it's already months late and people start to get worried. Everyone's been fantastic. Everyone's so patient. It's been great. So thank you for that as well. So what I come up with the idea is, someone suggested to me, oh, no, I do apologise. Someone sent me a great idea for books, which is called book plates. Have you ever heard of book plates?
No.
Yeah, see, no, right. It's an old-fashioned term. And anyone on there? Little first question of the evening, you know, like my little questions. No, don't think so. I hadn't heard of it until someone suggested it. I looked it up. Book plates are little, it's something you could glue them, if you like, on the back, inside the cover of a book. So sometimes you'll see it on old books. You see a lovely old book, and then you'll see a nice colour print or something.
Yeah, I know the thing, yeah.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is going to make a nice colour insert. I'm going to glue it in, but it'll be made to fit the Trojan War book, and I have a nice little picture on it. I haven't decided what yet. There we are. Paul Hart. Paul knows. He's the editor. He edited my last book. You see, my last book, which is like the only book I've ever done. So it's please all pray for Alan's health. Thank you, Patrick, for that. And yeah, you can, as Paul says on his comment, you can paste it into the inside cover. Spot on. So I get a nice little picture. I'm open to suggestions, by the way. I could just do the portrait that we've already got drawn of Alan and Baron and get him to sign that, or I don't know. Surprise me. All right. So the book will go out, and then I get, even if I can't go up there, what I can do, I can send a load of book plates and ask if they'll sign them and post them back. But the other problem is, the other news is that, fingers crossed. So anyway, hopefully it's nothing too serious, all right? But there's a little bit of a concern, so please send him your love, best thoughts and everything, all right? And the other concern is Barham has got his solo book, which I know everyone's been waiting for a long time, is the St. Patrick identified book. Well, that is with the printers, and he says, he's told me that it's been delayed a couple of weeks with the printers, and he'd like me to come up when that's ready, so I can get a big batch of them down to send out from here as well. And of course, I know that tonight we did not have his music playing, but people do love his album, which it's released. It's got to go out. He's got a big box of CDs, and I'm going to be selling those as well. So the one night we're going to start selling them probably, and it's not there. Anyway, so thank you for that. Thank you for going through all that. I'll do King Arthur. We've got King Arthur with us. Can't do better than that, can we? You're looking forward to the new book, Mr. Arthur. Do I call you Mr. Arthur or my liege or sire?
Yeah,
I'm not...
Your Grace is a
Your Grace is it? It'd be great. Your Grace is it? Right. Okay. Anyway, now I'm going to introduce Rob. A little bit different for us now, and if we got time at the end, I also have some funky dunky. Drone footage taken by David, and Steve sent it through, but I haven't had time to sort everything out today. I've been running around like a mad thing. They will all go up in the next couple of days. Best of health, thank you, Hugh. Yeah, right. Oh, and your birthday was the 11th. Thank you, Jordan Jones, regular viewer there, and always keeps me on the straight and narrow with the comments when I need them. So happy birthday to you, 2 days ago. Excellent. Might be a good idea to stay outside. Wouldn't want to get the great man sick. No, I definitely wouldn't want that on my conscience. But I definitely don't want to not see him. I don't know. It's difficult, isn't it? We've all got dilemmas and problems at the moment. So, your Grace is fine, says King Arthur.
Thank you, Your Majesty.
Yeah. No, your Grace is fine, he just said. Don't call him Your Majesty. He just said Your Grace.
Thank you, Your Grace.
Your Grace, Your Grace. Right. Gracious. Now, speaking of Your Graces, do you want to come forward a bit? I feel like I'm talking over my shoulder and it's a bit rude.
Sorry.
What we should have, you see, is 2 cameras, one on each of us, and a producer zipping back and forth and all that. I know what I'll do. I'll move this round a bit so it's more between us and you're less behind me.
Cool.
Right. your Grace is very apt, isn't it? Because a lot of your book is about King Charles II and stuff.
Yeah, King Charles II and his brother James, who became James II.
Right.
Do you want me to?
Yeah, do you want to just give us a quick overview of the book then? That's probably a good place to start, isn't
we
it?
started with those brothers. Those brothers had lost their father, obviously, in the Civil War. His father, Charles I, had been executed, and they really blamed, correctly, they blamed the City of London. The powers that be within the City of London were really the power behind the parliamentary forces in the Civil War. There are reasons to do with trade and tax. The Stuart brothers and the Stuart family thought they had a divine right to rule and just would take money and take control of things in ways that really, really, really upset the bankers of the City of London.
Right, okay.
So you could see the Civil War as really, the way I look at it, is the City of London versus the Crown. You've got these two power bases wrestling for control of the country. Obviously the City of London won, and which is why we have that, why we got the British Empire, because they wanted to go around the world and steal even more stuff than the stuff they already had. This island was no longer big enough for them, so they had to export stealing things from other people.
Yeah.
So,
I'm hoping if it's going to come. Yay! You can actually see we did put some preparation in this. It's not just thrown together.
So the book is called Architecture of Empire because a particular architect, a guy called Nicholas Hawksmoor, who was the student of Christopher Wren, built a series of churches in London that are kind of famously a bit of a mystery. No one was quite clear why he did what he did. I investigated that, and I'm going to kind of skip to I'm going to hit you with something I couldn't believe. I went to Kew, the National Records Office, and were reasons why I went and did this, but I ended up reading the report the parliamentary report into the Fire of London. Now, I'll show you links because it's now available online. Now, I didn't believe this. I wouldn't blame you if you didn't believe it.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to process. In the parliamentary report into the Fire of London, they essentially blame the fire on James, the man that became King James II, James, Duke of York. They were clear that James, Duke of York at the time, went around the city whilst London was burning, rescuing people who'd been caught committing arson. So there were arsonists, there were definitely people starting fire, there were dozens and dozens of witnesses to this. James actually went in with armed men and rescued some of them.
Yeah,
so I didn't understand it at the time. Why would the Duke of York be running around during the fire rescuing arsonists? And it made no sense to me whatsoever. Reading around it, it became clear that him and his brother, like I said, they both really hated the City of London. Really, really hated the City of London.
Well, that's how their civil war started, really, wasn't it? When they closed their gates.
Charles I was trying to arrest some parliamentarians. They ran into the City of London. The City of London was walled at the time. They closed the gates. And Charles I had to kind of leave London as a result of that. That was, the sort of proper... You don't often get taught that in history classes, but they set it up as the Crown versus Parliament. Parliament, kind of like today, was really just in the pay of bankers, let's say. This is John Tillotson. Now, John Tillotson became the Archbishop of Canterbury, as you can see, from 1691 to 1694. During the Fire of London and after the Fire of London, this man who became the Archbishop of Canterbury was really, really clear that the fire, at least, was the responsibility of Charles and James. He actually went further and seemed to think, as did other people, that the plague the year before was also probably at least partly the responsibility of the Stuart brothers. He and others pointed out, in fact, the poet Dryden pointed out that London in 1 year had had fire and famine and war and disease.
Yes.
I'll go into detail in this, but it was like God's own kind of revenge on the City of London. By October in 1666, London was flat and there was no one living in it. It had been completely decimated. And John Tillotson was very clear, as was a guy called Gilbert Burnet, for example, who became Bishop of Salisbury. So not fringe figures at all. These was establishment figures later. They were clear that the Fire of London was the responsibility of the Stuarts. And when I first read that, I couldn't believe it. And I still have... I don't blame anyone who doesn't believe it. Because we're taught the whole Pudding Lane story from about the age of 5.
Well, it's an interesting point. When Rob first contacted me about this, a year or two ago now, isn't it? Yeah, and he was saying to me, isn't it strange how the first lesson that everyone seems to learn when they go to school, or one of the first lessons, the first history lesson, is always a Great Fire of London. And I asked around, it amazingly is. And what was it brought it home to me as well? It's only a couple of years ago that my own children had gone to school, and one of the projects you get set is Great Fire of London. So we made a little model house. I think all parents have done this, and all children. We had to make like a half-timbered house, and we did, I make models, made quite a nice one, and it was a good little project, and we enjoyed it. And it's drilled into everybody from a very young age, this idea that Pudding Lane was an accidental fire started by a baker who's probably got the most fireproof place in London.
Yeah, I mean, he was very clear at the time. There was a fire in that baker's, but he was very clear at the time. There was nothing in his shop that could have burned that hot. He had to leave his shop over the roof and was completely spent months crying something must have happened here, because how does some wood and maybe some flour that could have exploded but wouldn't have burnt as hot as and intensely as it did, how did that happen? He was confused. That was Thomas Fariner, I believe his name was.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the story we get told is a myth. People at the time, dozens and dozens of witnesses give testimony in this parliamentary report, which I'd really recommend anyone who's interested or surprised by this should read, and hopefully we'll put the link up at some point. But in the report by Parliament, they're very clear that the fire was not an accident. The fire, for example, crossed the river to Southwark, the south side of the river, and went upwind. So you don't get a fire flying against the wind. You don't get it crossing the river and then turning left, if you see what I mean. The fire did a number of remarkable things. Another amazing fact that your children will not be taught at school is there was a new river, what was called the New River Company. Had set up a big reservoir in north of the City of London. Now, a man who was a friend of the Stewart brothers, a guy called Captain John Graunt, went to the reservoir the night the fire started and turned off all the piped water to London. So London was without any piped water when the fire happened. Yeah. When people challenged John Graunt about this, he said, "Oh, it was a mistake. I didn't mean to do it." But what a remarkable coincidence that one of their best friends happens to go to and turn off the water to the entire, to the whole City of London. It was called the New River Company. It was a reservoir in Islington, and they turned the water off. That is one of about 10 little facts like that you will not get taught at school, because it's impossible to pretend it's an accident. If you try to tell an insurance company, "Oh, it was just an accident," they're not going to believe you.
No.
And so these facts get edited out of the official version.
Well, that's what I like about your book. What Robert's done is approach it from an actuarial point of view, and it reminded me of Wilson and Blackett a bit, this idea of forensic, where you take the evidence apart and pick into the evidence rather than running with the story. Now, one thing I mentioned that, because I think the fire is fascinating to read about, because I've had the pleasure. Can you pass the folder as well, please?
Yeah.
Sorry. Of helping Rob with the book, just a little bit, on the pictures and editing a bit. Rob's a great writer, so I didn't have to do an awful lot. I just get my name on it somewhere. There's so many things about the fire in London were disgraceful, really, weren't they? We'd actually find, like you're saying, they were catching the people setting the fire. Literally red-handed.
Yeah, in the report it's very clear, like people were caught with incendiary devices on them, having been seen setting fire to places. Now, the city had its own sort of police force. They arrested these people, and literally James, Duke of York, would ride in with 20 of his mates and fight the police back. Actually, there were drawn swords and shots fired in the air, apparently, to scare the police off and say, "Look, I'm going to take that man as my prisoner." Now, that happened at least 5 or 6 times in that's recorded in the report, and not one of those arsonists ever saw the light of day again. Several people, including their expert firework maker, were sort of cornered by the mob, saying, "Look what's happening here." People were very clear the fire wasn't happening by accident, and all of those people were rescued by the Stuarts and taken to their palace, where they disappeared. So again, when I first read that, and I imagine if you're hearing this for the first time, which I imagine you are, you won't believe it. I didn't believe it. I was literally in the National Archives in Kew reading this thing, thinking Jeremy Beadle or something was going to come out and go, "Ha ha," because it just made no sense to me. But this, there's more of.
Yeah, what struck me as well is then it's the. I'll just quickly, so you can just have a quick look That's my little cartoon to go in the book. There's going to be a lot of illustrations in this book.
Yeah, cartoons and diagrams and photos, yeah.
Making it a very friendly kind of book. And we get it on pre-sale there the next week or two. So there, because the other thing as well, which is, you can't quite see that. Let's put it a little bit back a bit. Yeah, because the other thing where, like you're saying, it's the biblical proportions of this. The four revenges, if you like, isn't it?
They really did. They were brought up to believe that they were gods. They really did believe themselves
the Stuarts now, yeah.
Yeah, the Stuart. Yeah, they were deeply committed to their own divinity, if you like. They really did think they were special. And when their father died, you can imagine these two boys were like 19 and 17. It'd have been pretty traumatic for them. And they spent 9 years in France as a guest of their cousin Louis XIV. And it seems that people they hung out with whilst in France, their kind of friends, if you like, came back. And it was those people who were very much involved in the, let's say, the plotting and the planning. They were very clear that the City of London had killed God, and it was their kind of duty to God to take revenge. So I think they just went for fire.
Yeah, well, what I noticed on there, Dean Morgan's mentioned Robert Hooke.
Yeah.
Because he does figure in this story, doesn't he?
Robert Hooke.
He said that Robert Hooke was a man who was ripped off by Christopher Wren, and Wren stole a lot of his work and made sure Hooke was basically destitute.
Yeah.
I don't know how that fits into the story, but...
Well, yeah, Hooke and Wren were very close. They'd been childhood friends. Hooke was accused by people like John Tillotson of helping engineer a lot of the, let's say, the science or the engineering behind making this thing happen. The year of the Great Plague, 1665...
We'll come back to that in a second, yeah.
The year of the Great Plague, 1665, was also the year that Robert Hooke published his very famous picture of a flea from through his microscope, through a microscope he had made. Here's a fact he probably didn't know, and I certainly didn't know. At the time, it was well known you could buy a medicine that would mean you did not get plague. I'm going to say that again because I didn't believe it, and I doubt you will either. You could buy something. It was actually the most expensive commodity in the world at this time. You could buy it, and it would guarantee you were guaranteed you wouldn't get plague because nothing would. Because no insect will bite you.
The fleas repel, wasn't it? Yeah.
If you have nutmeg, you can Google this. If you imbibe enough nutmeg on a daily basis, no flea, no insect will bite you because they don't like the smell of it. And this was well known at the time, and this is one of the reasons why we kept having wars with the Dutch. We ended up having a war with the Dutch, essentially over the control of nutmeg trade, and that might seem a bit.
Yes,
I never understood why people were paying hundreds of pounds for nutmeg, which is hardly the most exciting thing.
Yeah, because I've read the book Nathaniel Nutmeg. I can't remember the name of the author off the top of my head now. And they explained there's a lot, for decades. Well, not really decades, but a long ongoing battle between the British and the Dutch, wasn't it? And I believe that's where New York comes into it as well, isn't it?
Yeah, well, as a part of the negotiations after the Second Anglo-Dutch War, we gave up our spice island in the sort of Indonesia now, where the British were growing their nutmeg, and in exchange we got Manhattan, which was called New Amsterdam, but James, Duke of York, named after himself as New York.
New York, that's right, yes.
Nutmeg, again, you can check this out, was the most expensive commodity in the world, and I never understood why, but it becomes clear that in doctors' records from the time, and especially the doctors that were hanging around with the Stuarts, who were very well qualified, it was very well known that nutmeg would ward off the plague. And actually, the only reason the price of nutmeg went down was later on they found a particular tree in America that had similar properties.
Oh, okay.
And so that you could use the fruit of that tree, and that, as a result of that, the price of nutmeg went down. So people were walking around during the Great Plague in London, where at least 100,000 people died.
Well, King Arthur's going to put nutmeg on his porridge from now on, so that's good.
good advice, especially if you don't like getting bitten by insects. But
well, the thing to point out, as well, just to jump into it a bit, was that you got the four biblical
revenge,
if you like. Yes, everyone knows about the fire, and you can see that was manipulated. You look into the plague, because then there was some interesting things, wasn't there, to get the plague going? Like a year before, they seemed to be set up, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
I was thinking about the cats and that kind of stuff.
There was during the plague, Robert Hooke gave the City of London the scientific advice to kill all the cats and dogs in London. So there were no natural predators for the rats, which seemed either really, really bad advice if you're trying to help people, or calculated to cause more damage. Hooke did all kinds of weird and wonderful experiments, not least on himself. He was a very strange and traumatized man, but his work with the flea and with disease his circle of friends, all of this knowledge was shared or was available to them. They knew about nutmeg. They knew about the mechanism of flea bites transmitting it.
Yeah.
And so, very simply, most of them, would stay. Lots of people stayed in London, which I thought, before I understood about nutmeg, I thought was suicidally brave. But actually, they just had a stockpile of nutmeg, so they were all right. So
that's the thing, wasn't it? The poor people getting wiped out.
Yeah, it was about 100,000, at least 100,000 people in a city of maybe 200,000. So you're looking at half the people. They also closed the gates of London and made it. You had to buy a sort of certificate of clean health to get out. So if you didn't have a couple of quid on you, you were dead.
Yeah, another classic control thing, isn't it? Really.
No. Yeah. So
you've got to buy something, which shows money, and then it's like a tax as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's the fire. And
so you've got the fire, the disease.
The wars with the Dutch completely destroyed trade. It also really crippled London because there was no trade coming in and out. They were really out to undermine the power of let's say the city or the banking trading fraternity.
Yeah, because the guy who started those wars, he was a bit of a character, wasn't he?
I'm trying to remember the name, Captain.
Yeah, what was his name? Well, it's in the book, but he was provoking these things, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, one of the people that went with the Stuarts to France was this Captain Robert Holmes. His name was Holmes, and he went around doing things in his boats which were breaking international law and breaking treaties with the Dutch. So he started 2 wars. The second and the third Anglo-Dutch wars were both started by Robert Holmes, who was a very, very close friend of Charles and James Stuart. He was one of what was called the King's Guard, the people who'd gone to France with them and kind of...
Yeah, they're super elite, super loyal.
Super tight circle of about 20 sort of aristocrats who went to France with them and came back again. So you got fire, famine... Oh no, the famine.
Yeah, war and pestilence.
Yeah, I mean the famine was very simple. Obviously, the plague really, really impacted life in London, and then you had this war with the Dutch, which meant no food was getting in. People were impoverished, burnt out of their homes, and diseased. Now, the story goes that after the fire, King Charles II rode out and had a look, and he actually saw some people starting to rebuild their houses. Now, as king, he had no legal right to stop them.
Right.
But he wept. He saw people rebuilding and he wept. He had one of his childhood friends, Sir Christopher Wren, had drawn up plans for a new London incredibly quickly.
He wasn't crying for the person having lost their home.
No.
Just to make that clear,
he was crying because he wasn't
feeling sorry for the poor peasant.
Oh no, he was crying because he wasn't going to get to build London the way he'd already planned to do it. And it is an interesting point to note that London became the biggest building site in the world, pretty much, and everyone who built there had to be able to cut stone. Things had to be rebuilt in stone. So you're talking about the time when an awful lot of masons ended up in London. And this is not coincidentally when Sir Christopher Wren, a pub called the Goose and Gridiron, started Freemasonry. Freemasonry as it's understood today.
Yeah, the more public form.
With their headquarters in Covent Garden. Freemasonry started in the grounds just outside the plot for St Paul's Cathedral. So you had this huge fire, everything had to be rebuilt in stone, and lo and behold, masons from all over the world ended up in London. There's same mason's mark on St Paul's Cathedral as there is on the Taj Mahal. So one guy who helped build the Taj Mahal came over and helped build the St Paul's Cathedral.
Yeah. Well, this is where it starts to tie in. Then I know it'd be a long. That's a heck of a long run up.
Hugh Evans knows Paternoster Square.
Paternoster Square, there we are, yeah. Hugh knows these things. And where it gets interesting as well, because I know we normally deal with ancient subjects and earlier subjects, this is when it starts, well, it's already fascinating for me, because all these things I didn't know about. I didn't know about the 4 things we just mentioned, and how they were generated, and very, secretly and subversively, and how it's been hidden since. Because I know, look at all the details of the books. There's a lot in the book. It's crammed information. But like on the memorial to the fire of London, it was written on there what had happened and who'd done it. It's very much a modern invention. This
on the monument, one of the mayors of London put on the monument the popish frenzy that started this fire is yet to be quenched. He's explicitly blaming the Catholics, which is what everyone did at the time, because Charles II converted back to Catholicism on his deathbed, but was a Catholic. James was a Catholic. and that's one of the reasons he got chased off the throne. Not many people know the last time this country was successfully invaded was 1688. That was to get rid of James II on the throne, because the City of London and everyone else was like, we're not having this guy in charge.
Yes. And put a tame Protestant back on, which is
put
William and Mary and the
William and Mary come in, and where the, if you like, the starting of the cleansing, if you say, of British history started. Wilson and Blackett point out that it was sort of 1750.
Yeah, well, not long after that, really, is when it all starts to change. When the Hanoverians come on, because obviously William and Mary didn't produce any heirs. This was the problem, wasn't it?
Well, he didn't. I don't think he liked women very much.
No, he didn't. But anyway, the point was with those that there was no heirs, and that's when the Hanoverians come in. So this is why this is important. Another reason why this is very relevant to what we're doing in Britain's hidden history. It's around this period when it seemed to be almost a complete rewrite of British history started to take place.
Well, the Whigs, there was two political parties broadly that we call now Tories and Whigs. The Whigs won. They won the Civil War. They gained control. They also beat up the chased James II off the throne. When William III, William of Orange, came onto the throne, the Whigs had won. And what they started doing was just rewriting history. There was a guy called Camden in particular who started doing this.
Yeah, Camden gets referenced a lot in that Cambria Triumphant's book.
Yeah. Now, I mean, there's an awful lot of, let's say, oral history, like the Trojan stories, all these things that have been passed down from time immemorial. These people just, edited all of that stuff out because it didn't fit with their new way of looking at things, which is essentially what they wanted to call a more scientific way of doing history, but in fact was just them rewriting history so that they could help get people in the state of mind to go and conquer.
Well, so I go on a lot about it being a Germanic rewrite, but you're saying it's a bit more subtle than that, or slightly different to that, is it?
Yeah, well, later on, I mean, I'd say...
That's not necessarily the key point in your view, though.
Sorry, what?
Well, what I mean is by making it like convincing the English they were Saxons and the Celts and all that. Yeah. But how does that tie in? Is that different, or is that...
No, I'd say it was very much that process. I mean, the reason for doing it, though, was, if you like, is to cut...
Not just this Germanic reason, though, you're thinking. It was other reasons.
Well, it's sort of political and cultural. It was to make people... if you believed you were a sort of a conquering race and, a race...
Oh, I see, right.
You're just going to go and do that somewhere else, because that's what
you do.
That's what you do, yeah. And it was a way...
So you're a mighty warrior history...
Yeah.
Right, okay.
It's something like that. They were trying to make sure that the culture and the understanding of history... I mean, this is why I'm here talking to you, because what Wilson and Blackett gave for me is just that perspective of everything that's been edited out of our history as an island. I mean, the idea that Julius Caesar, was invaded twice because his first invasion was so good, he came back again. All this stuff we get taught. It's something like reading Wilson and Blackett and finding out about this British perspective really, really pulled wool away from my eyes and has been an amazing discovery, because it puts into context for me. If you like, I came at it from a different point of view. The City of London is very much the organ that runs this country. I don't know if you're pro or anti-Brexit, but seeing as Brexit happened, you can bet the City of London wanted it to. They're the people that run this country. The Queen's there to distract us, and the politicians are there to wind us up. But
so that's interesting, because Wilson and Blackett's notes, if you like, was going to be their big finish last book, which isn't going to happen in that format now. Because it's just too rambling and big. But they always refer to what they call the invisible kingdom. So they talk about, I can't remember all that, there's roughly 5 types of people. So you got, your English, British,
Picts,
Normans, whatever. And then this 5th element,
right,
which is these people, these sort of very powerful bankers or whatever they are behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And you say the word they, and it's always who's they? And that's the question. Who is they? We don't really get to know who they is, such, do we? Or just some ideas on that?
There's a lot of Venetian money came to London. The Venetians...
Oh, that's actually part of the book, yes, that's right.
The Venetians had their little empire going off in Italy, obviously, and they became very, very unpopular because of the way they did it. But they were the model, and actually a lot of the... they had a naval empire, trading empire. They were vicious, brutal, enslaving... bad people. I'm trying really hard to I'm trying not to swear, but a lot of Venetian money and a lot of Venetian legal expertise and a lot of Venetian bankers got out of Venice because it was being superseded by the Atlantic trade and moved to London. So you can Lombard Street in the City of London is so named.
Because of Lombardy, right?
Yeah, so you can trace
Okay.
some of it.
Because another side, just to jump around a bit, is another side of the book, which is interesting for our Britain's hidden history, is this concept of banking and interest and everything. And what Rob's done very cleverly is take that all the way back to ancient Egypt and biblical times,
Yeah,
and follow it through, isn't it? And then
yeah. I mean, I think
the concept of it.
yeah, the way I approached the book was that I was really, like I said, I started looking at these churches by this guy Nicholas Hawksmoor, and he built these churches
Show the map now, or
yeah, if you
Okay,
like.
I'll just-
So famously or infamously, if you map these churches, put the churches where they are on a map, they kind of make a pattern. There are a couple of things I could go into detail here, but this is sort of known in London folklore. There's a poet called Ian Sinclair that mentioned these churches and the fact that they nearly make a
So
square.
look at, just to make sure,
Yeah.
we look at the blue tabs, all right?
Yeah,
Just
sorry.
look at
So
how clear it is on your
For example,
screen.
there's nearly a square in the middle of that. Now, if Hawksmoor had got to build the church that's labelled 5 on this map where he wanted to, that square would have been perfect. So it would have been, just slightly,
He
probably
wanted to be there, didn't he?
just slightly down from there, yeah.
There.
But he wanted to make the square. He deliberately, using compulsory purchase, he deliberately put these churches in different places, and I was just kind of fascinated why. And from him, I learned about Christopher Wren, and these churches kind of appear quite a lot in different bits of fiction and different poetry. So they've always kind of been there. But I just wanted to work out why he'd bothered to do this. What did he think he was trying to do? Now, what he was trying to do was, if you like, using his churches and religious buildings, building a culture into London that would keep it prosperous. And that's actually, obviously, a very, very old idea. You want your nation to be prosperous.
Yes.
For obvious reasons, as a Protestants, Wren and Hawksmoor and so on, didn't like looking at Rome as an example. So they went beyond Rome and actually went back to Egypt. For lots of reasons, there are very, very, very strong connections with Egypt and Christianity, not least being the fact that the Egyptian god Horus, his story predates
the rebirth and everything, all that stuff.
Born of a virgin birth on December 25th, 12 disciples died and reborn. I mean, the story of Horus is very, very, very similar to the story of Jesus. So anyway, Hawksmoor and his friends looked all the way back to Egypt, and actually my theory, which I won't bore you with now if you like, but my theory for why he built the churches that way was to do with essentially his Freemasonry and the Egyptian way of doing things, let's say the Egyptian kind of religion and how it embodied and encapsulated prosperity. They had different gods. Everyone knows the Egyptians had lots of gods, but they had gods that were kind of to do with making Egypt prosperous. You worship certain gods.
Yeah, Osiris was for the floods and all that kind of thing. Yeah.
Different gods had different functions, and if you got the right gods in the right combination, you were likely to have prosperity. So yeah, the book does trace broadly banking all the way back to Egypt, where when
you can see how evil it has been. I mean, a lot of it, the biggest evil it seems to be, and it is specifically banned in the Bible, by the way, is the charging of interest. This is what creates all the problem.
Yeah.
So if you start off with 100, whatever it is, marbles, and you lend someone some 50 marbles, they've got to give you 55 back. Well, where do the other 5 marbles come from? This is always the issue.
I'll lend you another 10 marbles. How's that?
Yeah, I'll lend you some more marbles. Now you owe me, you now owe me 6 interest.
Yeah.
Plus we've got our original 100, there's 106, but I've only made 100.
So
where's the other 6 come from?
Well,
this is always the problem, isn't it? You need to keep feeding the monster.
Well, one of the genius things or evil genius things, let's say, was the founding of the Bank of England. And when that happened, they issued, I think it was £1 million worth of notes and at 8% interest. So obviously you've got £1 million worth of notes out there. Now that 8% interest has got to be paid in something other than paper money. So
£80,000 worth of money has to be generated.
Yeah, so it was essentially £80,000 worth of gold or silver, which was the only...
well, how else are you going to pay back?
Yeah, well,
there's only one person issuing notes.
Yeah, and they're the only things that they'd accept
right, they're not going to accept
in 1 year,
legs of lamb or whatever.
I think it was actually £10 million worth of notes they printed, and in 1 year they got £800,000 worth of gold and silver by printing notes, which is really quite a clever scheme. And so this era, I'd say, this after the fire with the deposition of James II in 1688, when he was chased off the throne by a coup, is the beginning of the ascendancy of the City of London. If you want to talk about the sixth extinction event or global capitalism or any of these big systematic problems,
all dates back to this,
you can run it all the way back to that bit of land.
Yeah, for the whole world, it's quite disturbing, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very.
But one of the things I noticed is ties in with Wilson and Blackett's work again. Is if you look at Moses in the hieroglyphs, and it tells you how you can actually find the biblical characters in the Bible, or even get your copy of the Bible. Mine's usually behind me. Just right there, the blue book. Always read your Bible. It's very interesting, for religious reasons, historical reasons. There's a lot in there. I'm not preaching just because it's a Sunday. But what you have to learn to do, which I've tried to learn from watching how Alan Wilson reads a book, is read it and really read it. Don't just go through because you know the story. You have to, somehow blank that out. And the best example, my favourite, is Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat. You got the big Andrew Lloyd Webber musical, and he's a real hero.
We all know the story, yeah.
We all know the story. His brother's selling him into slavery, and he rises to become the viceroy, and isn't he wonderful because he has the dream, or the pharaoh has the dream. If you don't know the story, you should. But anyway, pharaoh has the dream. 7 fat cows, followed by 7 thin cows, and the thin cows eat the fat cows. What's all that about? And Joseph, through his brains or whatever, his clairvoyance, says there's 7 fat cows are the 7 years of plenty, 7 thin cows are the famine years. So the food from the plentiful years will be eaten in the famine. So the pharaoh's obviously very impressed. And he says, right, the solution for this is to build great storehouses, and we'll store grain from the good times to the bad times. And that sounds wonderful. And everyone thinks that's wonderful, but the way he gathered the corn and distributed the corn, it wasn't quite as you or I might do it,
You could say that was the beginning of banking, because every little area had a temple, and you had, as an Egyptian, to put your grain in the temple. Now, you hadn't,
was it 20% or something, wasn't it?
No.
The grain products.
Well, later on, at least, you had to put 100% of your harvest in.
Right.
So then, obviously,
you could get some of it back, perhaps.
They might let you have some of your own food back, but it was kind of like the beginning of banking, because each temple or a religious centre became a centre of wealth. By definition, you couldn't go anywhere else to get your daily bread, and they would charge interest. You give them, I don't know, like £100 in weight,
100 bags or whatever,
and they give you, here's your grain back. We've taken 10 for looking after it for you, and you had no choice. And it was very much like the beginning of banking. Really is the beginning of, it was sort of
and it's explained,
barley and corn merchants.
Yeah, and it's explained in the Bible if you look at it. It says the grain was taken.
Yeah.
And of course, when time got tough and people were starving, he wasn't just given out free.
No, you didn't get your stuff back just because you needed it. No, the bank had it, so they knew what to do with it.
Yeah, so then you had to give up all your
women, children.
Sell your children to slavery, all sorts of things. All the assets went. They stripped the temples, the lot.
It's very. I love the analogy that banks tend to give out money like it's free, and they throw it out like corn, and then they'll let you work with it for a while, let you grow the corn, and then they'll harvest it. And I'd say 2008 was a harvesting opportunity for very, very rich people. So the if you like, the history of banking and how it's kind of tied into the history of agriculture, when you look right back, is why I go to Egypt. And it did feature in Hawksmoor's thinking and the thinking of the people at the time, because they were trying to remake the world. They wanted to remake the world in a new image. So they were done with the Roman Catholicism. They wanted a commercial.
Yeah, because that was like their God on earth type thing, wasn't it? The divinity of kings was the Stuarts, wasn't it?
Yeah, they were. Yeah,
they were the law. They weren't part of the law.
No, they were. But they weren't subject to the law. That's what Charles II said Charles I said when they tried to try him for treason. He said, "Well, look, I'm the king. The law doesn't apply to me.
You have no jurisdiction."
Yes. So it didn't work for him because they still cut his head off. But he stuck to that argument to the death, and no doubt his boys would have gone,
yes,
well, that's what my dad believed in and he died for it, so we better stick to it. Do you know what I mean? So, unbelievable story for me that I love sharing, because it proves we've got an awful lot of our history on this island that we're just not told, or we're deliberately misinformed about. Really, I think the reason we're not taught about the Great Fire in the way it was believed at the time.
Oh, sorry, there's the report. Yeah.
Check this out. That's the link. You won't believe it.
I'll put that in the description as well,
you.
so you can just click on it.
Could not believe what I was reading. Like I said, I thought Jeremy Beadle was going to jump out at me. But the reason we're not taught this, I think, is because it's embarrassing for the city to be shown quite how powerful they are.
Yeah.
Because they did, once Charles II died and his brother James II became king, they were like, no, we're not having this. And so they organised for William of Orange to invade.
But the other thing,
that's treason, and they don't like admitting that they get away with murder.
Well, yeah, it's literally murder, wasn't it? Because the other thing you went into as well in your book is explaining the whole, like, there's a philosophy as well, wasn't it? Because you had the Stuarts are very much everyone in their station, and you had your role in life.
Yeah,
God ordained, whereas the city was, well, you make yourself a few quid, son, and get yourself a nice suit, and you're as good as anybody.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. I mean, the Stuarts and the Tories generally just believed in a hierarchy. You were born into your place.
Know your station, isn't it?
The hierarchy of being, there's all kinds of names for it. And they were very, very conservative, believed in running the economy on agriculture. Didn't really they hated the printing press, for example. They thought the printing press was a terrible idea because suddenly everyone was reading. And that
that's the last thing you want.
We removed their advantage.
Also, my cat comes to hello.
Hey.
Hi, Mimi.
Yeah. So,
yeah. Sorry, there's a couple of people making out some good comments there, talking about. I saw Lee somewhere. So scrolled up a bit. Sorry, Lee Povey. And I remember the comment. Anyways, there it is. He's saying that the birth certificate is a money instrument, because that was the other thing they did. Of course, they rewrote all the laws of property and everything. All that got changed.
Cuvée and all of that. One of the first things that Parliament did after the Great Fire was say that essentially you and me now, we're boats. Legally speaking, we're the same as a boat, and if we don't appear after 7 years, we can declare you dead, and the state
lost at sea, isn't it?
Yeah, the state can take all your assets. Now, one of the things that happened was 7 years after the Great Fire in 1683, the story goes that no one died in the fire, or very few people died. That can't be true, because after 7 years, the Stuarts, having written this law in, acquired a huge amount of property from people who didn't make
Excuse me, just 1 second.
Yeah,
Carry
sure.
on. Yeah.
So,
okay.
a bit like, let's say...
Sorry about that.
After the Reichstag fire, Hitler had all kinds of bits of legislation ready to go onto the statute books. Now, somehow or another, the Stuarts had up their sleeve, their friends had up their sleeve this act, which really benefited them, and, like I say, essentially turned people into property.
Well, and also, if you look at it, it's one of the most complicated pieces of legislation and comprehensive ever passed. And somehow they turned this around in no time, didn't they?
It's just like, oh, look, I've got this. Oh, well, that's lucky, isn't it?
Just restructure the whole of property law and death law and registering of people, everything, just like that.
Yeah, and again, like after 9/11...
Genius bit of drafting.
After 9/11, there was the Patriot Act. They just went, boom.
Yeah, that's a bit like we got that already,
They had a 1,000-page document just ready, which... you can believe in coincidences.
Yeah, people can look at the comments if they want to find out more about birth certificates and births. Well, even this one, birth, is a naval term, isn't it?
Yeah.
You get birth, like a ship gets birthed, all that kind of stuff. It's a fascinating area. This one I try and avoid, really. We get enough controversy and stick already. But it is important to realise, as we all do, that this is all fuel to the idea that the history was rewritten this late 17th century, early 1700s. Like, one of the things, keep banging on to people, it comes up all the time, I know it's an emotional subject for Welsh people as well, I'm Welsh, is this idea we're not Celtic. I mean, this is one of these things which is just invented. And one of the things I would say, tying in what you were saying about creating an empire and a country, one of the empires always want to do is make everybody the same. You are a member of the empire. You are not this group, So everyone wants to speak the same language, wear the same clothes. You ban tartan, you ban kilts, everyone dresses the same, the laws are the same, everything's the same.
Yeah. And
you become one homogenous group. And I would say this happened, me hypothesising a bit now, in England, a long time before that, because I'm one of the areas I'd like to look into. If people out there can do this, great, go for it. It's not like I'm keeping it for myself, quite the opposite. I want to find out more. It is about the English language itself. And sorry to jump in a minute, Rob, because it's one of the things I've... this idea of standard English and whether it's a Germanic language and everything, I think that's also an invention. So you have to remember, this is the same era when we had the King James, the Bible come out, and this is when there's an attempt to standardise English. Now, even if you look at modern English, it's not standardised. They try very hard to do this, but it's not. I'll give you examples. If you go to, a Geordie will have their own vocabulary, and I was listening to something the other day on the radio, and it was people from up in Cumbria, a complete different dialect of different words. And as you know, all over the country, we still have this. So just imagine the variation that must have been going on back in the 17th century. They could have been completely different languages being spoken across Britain, and this whole concept of there being an English language, I think is really needs looking into more.
Just one of the wonderful things again that was coming across this work. I'd love to share the story if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So, like, I was doing research for my book, and I was looking into the quote unquote Dark Ages, and I came across Moses in the hieroglyphs as a book. But on Amazon, it was like 4,000
quid or something.
I think it was more. Anyway, it was
maybe £1,000 at one point, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like 800 quid. And I was like, oh. So
he was about that much,
I googled and sent a message around and said, does anyone know where I can get a copy of this book? And then Ross got back to me and said, I've just published it today. Do you want a signed copy? So that was wonderful. But I mean, the insight Wilson and Blackett have given me into the broader picture, it shows that actually a lot of people are talking about, you know, colonial history and all the bad things that happened or that were done in India and Africa and China. I mean, the Opium Wars are just unbelievable when you think about it.
Well, you mentioned a lot about the exploitation of India. I won't go into it now. But it's in the book.
But actually,
the
the first people to be colonised and be ripped of their history and their culture were the people on this island.
Yeah.
And
that's not just the Welsh and Scottish. As I keep saying, it's the English as well. They completely lost their history.
Yeah, well, we're not taught.
At least the Welsh know there's some history that's disappeared.
Yeah, you guys are aware that.
Well, some people are anyway.
There's more of an awareness of a lost culture. in London,
and some chance of a language still.
Yeah, I mean, it is true to say that the history we get taught is BS.
It's made up. Yeah.
Another lovely example is if you want to. I'll stick with this example. I mean, for me, what's really great about talking about the Fire London and just giving people this link, because a lot of people don't want to even look at it.
Yeah.
But if you give people
I had a shock. I've had a look. I've only had a quick look. I haven't studied it, but have a look. On the front page alone, it talks about hundreds of fire starters, and that's just
300.
And he's like, I was pointing out that picture earlier. The reason we showed the Archbishop, Tillotson, is because it's not just some troublemakers. This is MPs,
lords,
senior church people, lords. This is the main establishment of the country.
Again,
was saying this was a fire. This was arson.
There were the Whigs, who were kind of more like the bankers and the ones who wanted an empire, and there were the Tories, who were just more into the monarchy. And the Whigs and the Tories, literally, you had the Civil War, you had the Glorious Revolution in 1688, you had fire, famine, war and disease in 1666. They were going at each other. It's a bit like Brexit, I'd say. In Brexit, you've got one bunch of people who think they own the country saying we need to be in the EU, another bunch of people who think they own the country saying we have to be out. And they fight it out, and people like us are just sort of collateral damage.
Yeah.
At the time...
Given the illusion that we get a choice in
it. Every 4 years we get to choose one or two monkeys. At the time, the fight that was going on for Britain was for control of Britain. It was between the Crown and the City. And actually, the fact that we don't get taught any of that is just really shows that our history is hidden from us.
Yes.
And
a little sketch did there, isn't it?
So the idea for this drawing was, this is Charles II on his way back into London dressed as a king. Have you got the next picture?
Yeah, they should.
Because Charles II, before he was crowned, this is in 1651, he actually left London, escaped Britain, dressed as a washerwoman. And you can imagine to a at that time, I think, 20-year-old boy who'd been brought up a king, that was pretty...
Thinks he's a god, yes.
Yeah, he thinks he's god. He had to shave his hair and sneak out of London on a boat dressed as a washerwoman. I know that because the Venetian ambassador to Paris wrote a report about when Charles and his brother turned up in Paris to hook up with their mum and their cousin Louis XIV. Louis XIV took very good care of the Stuart brothers while they were in France and helped get them back on the throne, if you know what I mean. But Charles II...
Well, of course, that distracting. That was another little nugget dropped into your book as well, with the bungs coming over from France.
Oh, yeah.
Charles, the English monarchy causing trouble with the Dutch. And things like that.
Charles II took a pension, was a paid employee. Was a paid employee of Louis XIV. He had to do certain things because he promised to.
One of which is keep causing trouble with the Dutch.
He promised his cousin that he'd have lots of wars with the Dutch because that would keep the Dutch sort of occupied and allow Louis to fight them more easily on land.
Yeah.
It also made...
It should have been the Dutch and the English were the two Protestant powers.
Nations. So how did we
with the navies, and they should easily blockade France and cause all sorts of problems.
Yeah, if we joined up with the Dutch...
Rather than just destroying each other,
So Charles II took several huge amounts of money off his cousin Louis, who was fantastically rich. He was a paid employee. And that was actually mentioned... I can't remember. I think it might have been
terrible, isn't it?
It might have been a Lord Shaftesbury, but someone mentioned it in Parliament that Charles's correspondence seemed to did show that he was getting paid. Obviously, they kept a low profile for a while because calling the king a traitor was obviously quite a dangerous thing to do. But they did it, and this is again the thing. Look at that parliamentary report. Think of the politicians today; they're not suicidally brave. And they do care about their public image. Politicians in 1666 were happy to sign off a report that directly implicated the royal family in the Great Fire of London. And that took...
And you could get executed in them days. It wasn't just a laugh,
and they didn't always bother with the trial either, did they?
Sorry, you made me laugh a bit there. Do you remember Yes Minister?
Yeah.
For anyone not from Britain or a bit younger, you might not remember. It's a story of his Hacker, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Hacker is a bit of an idiot, but he gets voted in as MP. And the brains of the outfit, Humphrey Appleby, was his permanent undersecretary, the civil servant, who just manipulates him very cleverly. And when he said that, one of the things he says, the minister, I've got this great idea for this wonderful initiative, and he says whatever it was, and he says, "That's very brave, Minister, very brave." What? Brave?
Yeah.
What? Brave?
Yeah.
What do you mean brave?
Yeah.
Because the one thing they don't want to do is be brave, because you lose your seat, don't you? Or in those days, you lose your head, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, the politicians that signed off on this report were lawyers and bankers and landowners.
Yeah, they had a lot to lose, didn't they?
They had a lot to lose, but they signed off on a report that was clear that Charles's brother James had been riding around rescuing people. I don't know how you else. It blew my mind when I first read that. Cause
because they were getting. Well, they were French, weren't they? I think a lot of them, wasn't that the thing? They were.
There was certainly.
There's lots of different rumours going around.
Yeah, I mean, one guy got executed for actually starting the fire of London. A guy called Robert Hubert. He was tried and executed. He admitted he'd set a fire, and he actually said as he understood it, he thought he was one of 300 other Frenchmen. That's what he said at his trial. And again, you don't get taught. You don't get taught that the fire of London there was a conviction.
Yeah.
It was all an accident. Well, why did they execute that guy?
Yeah. No, sorry, I was loading up the next video.
Sure.
Yeah. He was actually executed, wasn't he?
He was
found guilty.
Tried and executed. And one of the people.
Whichever version this is the point. Whichever version you go with, you either go with the version Robbers uncovered, and you can see there was a fire started by French, paid by the king, whoever it was, the whole thing, which is pretty much what the parliamentary report.
Yeah.
Or you can see the fall guy who got nailed for it and actually executed. Yeah. But again, it's not the story we're taught in school either way.
No. Yeah. I mean,
we're not told either version.
No, I know. I mean, it's just
it's this myth, this pudding lady. Do you think about it as well? One thing I got thinking about it is that a baker's the one place when as soon as you think about it, I think that's stupid. Of course, a baker didn't start a fire. He's got a proper oven.
Yeah, he knows.
He deals with fire on a daily basis. His place is designed not to spread fire.
Yeah, it was a brick-lined building, a brick-lined room.
This is the place
designed to contain heat. And he'd actually put the fire out from that day. He said, let it cool down and put wood back in the oven for the next day. He got the oven ready. But the fire that burnt so very hot.
Hotter than wood would anyway,
Yeah, but for example, at St Paul's Cathedral, when it got there, the fire was so hot it melted the lead on the roof, which means it was over 1,000 degrees. Now, lots of people at the time pointed out that wood doesn't burn.
Well, that's reminds us of 9/11 again, and it's sort of careful getting into this burning temperatures.
Yes,
but one of the things
it's very similar.
But one of the things with I quite enjoyed, because they wanted to redo St Paul's, didn't they? This is one of Christopher Wren's pet dreams.
Yeah,
and they were doing some work, weren't they, on I'm just giving away all the book here, but it's still worth reading. It's so much in there. But they were doing the work on the St Paul's Cathedral.
Yeah,
and the materials they'd left sitting there.
Oh yeah, this is a great. Well, this is true. A few weeks before the fire, Sir Christopher Wren got permission to help do refurbish the old St Paul's. Now, what he decided to do, for reasons that may become clear, he covered the building in scaffolding, and there was tar all over the building, buckets and buckets and buckets. tons and tons, gallons and gallons of tar all over the building because they were going to re-tar the roof. Now, unfortunately,
the fire came along,
and the whole church, which was much bigger than today's St Paul's Cathedral, apparently burnt down in a couple of hours. And again, a lot of people were like, "That? How did that happen?"
Yeah, why are you leaving a tar lying around? And why was those people taking the books out before the fire even started?
Well, yeah, I mean, the number of coincidences, the way I looked at it...
It seems too many people knew what was going on, isn't it? This is the other thing.
If you're an insurance company and someone told you, oh, it's just by coincidence that the fire, all the water in town was turned off. It was just a coincidence that there were these 300 Frenchmen, It was just a coincidence that people were caught setting fire to things. It's just a coincidence that the Duke of York was going around rescuing people who were starting fire.
He wasn't. Just to be clear, he wasn't rescuing people from the fire.
Oh no.
He was rescuing people that had been arrested for starting the fire.
Yes, that's a nice way of putting it. So, name any insurance company that will pay out on that. And
if the money's right, all of them.
Yeah, but it just, thank you for this opportunity.
I think people enjoy it because it's going to be.
It's such a shocking example. I hope it, from my point of view, if people read the book, they'll be equipped to say, well, look, if you believe you're in your history. Look at this.
Yeah, because it's all very well referenced, and you've got parliamentary reports and stuff. You can't say the report didn't happen. Yeah,
I mean, it's part of the National Archive. It's there. It was really interesting when I went to Kew and because you have to phone ahead or whatever, and I asked for the report. They were like, "Oh, here you go," and it was like they dusted it off. But they were
no one asked for this. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think. Not many people asked.
You wouldn't think of it, would you?
Well, no, I hadn't thought of it. Actually, what happened?
Why would you look for a 300-odd-year-old parliamentary report? It's pretty boring, isn't it?
That was because I'd spoken.
Well, I can understand why you did. But
I know, because I am that boring. And but there's a guy called Adrian Tinniswood who wrote some very interesting histories of the era, and I spoke to him, and he kind of just kept mentioning it.
There's lots more trails you show in the book as well, aren't there?
There's an awful lot to it. I mean,
even Adrian Gilbert props in at one point, didn't he? For all those Nelson and Blackett fans out there.
Yeah, Adrian. I got to meet Adrian and talk to him about his book called New Jerusalem, which is an interesting book. But he says it was there were a bunch of Rosicrucians who were around when the fire happened. Now that may or may not be true, but what is definitely true is there were a lot of Freemasons. And that's just a matter of record.
Yeah. Because
so Christopher Wren was the Freemasons.
Yeah, because they actively advertised the fact, didn't they? It's not conspiracy theory. That's what they were quite proud of the fact, weren't they?
Yeah, and as it turns out on investigation, there are different branches of Freemasonry, almost like they're Protestant and Catholic, who really didn't like each other.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting one, because they're known as and I'm sure we got Freemasons in our group as well. Maybe you can help me on this, or people know more about it than I do. Traditionally, you always had the Irish and the Scottish, they were known as.
Well, that's what they're known now. Yeah, known as.
It's always been curious to me because one of the things looking at Britain's hidden history and the works of Wilson and Blackett and that is it would seem to me more likely that at least one of those two, whichever one, the Irish one, I would think, would like to have started in Wales actually, because that's where the Templars goes back to the British thing. You could see the names. There's a lot of Masonic names around West Wales and places like that, and it's got this label of Irish for some reason.
As you know,
but I guess another part of Britain's hidden history I'd love to know more about.
Well, you know, the Welsh never did anything because it says so in history. So,
yeah.
What it was is the masonry that was kind of popular around the Stuarts was called Scottish Freemasonry.
Yes.
It came down with them,
the Stuarts, I suppose.
When they came down.
So it's not necessarily Scottish. It just means they had Scottish.
Yeah, it's kind of the way they looked at things, and then the quote unquote Irish Freemasonry is a bit like the quote-unquote Celtic Church.
Right.
The British, the native, not quite sure about the origins.
Just a different school of thought, kind of thing.
Yeah, but it was I mean, you can see if someone was a quote-unquote Irish Freemason, they were generally on the side of the Americans in their Revolutionary War, and if you were a Scottish Freemason, you're on the side of the king.
Oh, the crown, right.
In France, when the French had their revolution, all the Irish Freemasons were kind of up or supportive of Napoleon, and all the Scottish Freemasons were more or less supportive of the crown. So there's all the revolutions that sort of happened in the 18th, 17th, 18th century that were connected with Freemasons, like the American Revolution, the French Revolution, they were what are known now as Irish Freemasonry.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
a different school of thought.
They're more Republican.
Yeah, more equality, fraternity, and what's the other one?
Equality,
Liberty,
Liberty, fraternity, equality.
They were into the equality thing. Let's say the Scottish Freemasons were very, very committed to the hierarchy.
Yeah, they don't believe no equality.
Don't really
They've got
believe
quite
in
a few
equality.
comments here. People are enjoying this, I think. A bit different to what we normally do. God, we got loads of stuff here. Sorry, what we got? Pirates of the Caribbean, what's going on? Oh, I see. Yeah, you could be gone for more than 7 years and come back to find you dead. Yeah, it's not quite what Les said, but in theory you could. Yeah, I think that still applies, actually.
Yes, after 7 years you can be declared.
Yeah, so you might suddenly turn up. Because people do this, don't they? People fake their own deaths. They
Especially
wander
in
off to
soap
the sea.
operas.
In soaps, they come back all the time.
It just seems to be the thing, doesn't it? Oh, that character was popular. Let's,
Yeah.
I didn't drown in that.
Yeah, well, the boys, that was in Star Wars. As you know, Star Wars comes into this a lot, all right? It's a bit of a running theme with our programmes, and we always say there, unless you actually see that their head come off or something, they're not actually dead. They all come back as well, don't they? I look the sidetrack onto Star Wars again. I did too much of that already. There's so many comments, I can't keep up them all of them there. An animal, what's that? Pleads, never submit a plea. Yeah, I've heard this as well, but I've not get too much into law. Perhaps we'll do that another time. But the idea is, if you have to, you walk into a court, you have to, you admit you represent the person, you have to give your name. But apparently, unless you do that, you can't actually be tried because you're a legal fiction.
Yeah. I want to just
say it, please. Go on, yeah.
Lone Star Leo in Massachusetts Masonry, after 3 degrees in a Blue Lodge or regular Masonic Lodge, you can join. Yeah. So
so what's saying? So you do 3. In American Masonry, do 3 degrees, then you can move to the Blue Lodge, which is, what's that?
You
have a choice. You have to choose the 2 branches.
It's another sort of form of... In this country, I know nowadays it's the 3 Scottish degrees, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and then you get that's called Lodge. Your Lodge.
Well, I thought the Grand Lodge brought the whole thing together, doesn't it?
Yeah, but you do your first 3 degrees in Lodge, and then you get invited to... You can be invited to go to Chapter, which is the Irish... rite, and it's a very different ceremony apparently. I actually learnt about this through reading the Freemasonry.
Well, you contacted the Freemasons.
Oh, I did. I did. Yeah.
No, we're not anything against Freemasons. We're just discussing history. But
I don't know enough about it to comment. If you know what I mean. But I do know that at the time, let's say the Whigs and the Tories. The Whigs were nearly all Scottish Rite Freemasons. Sorry, the Tories were nearly all Scottish Rite Freemasons.
That would tie in with the royal connection.
Into the royal connection, and then the Whigs were much more likely to be Irish Rite Freemasons and much more into
Republicans, as I would call it, roughly. Yeah,
more egalitarian, more kind of meritocratic. So there's an awful lot of history went on, and you don't get taught none of it. You get taught I was all an accident. And for me,
what amazes me is that every child gets taught this. One of the first things you get taught. This is the weird thing.
Well, isn't it?
It's so important that
you know
what caused. Why is it important?
I think if you got taught that as a teenager, you go, "What? Everything burnt down as an accident?" You'd actually ask a question.
Because it's a big old city, isn't there, for one fire to take it out?
Well, yeah, like one little fire and then, one fire in a baker's. But that isn't what happened.
It's all down to this bloke, wasn't it? It's all his fault, wasn't it?
Yeah, if you like.
Oh, Guido.
Well, no, that was another...
that's a bit later, sorry.
That's another story.
Oh, yeah, I forget. There's so many stories in there. It's brilliant. So I highly recommend that.
So, yeah, I also...
So you got her End of the World Woman, all that kind of thing. What's her name again?
Mother Shipton.
Anyway, there's a lot of propaganda and things. I reckon everyone should read it, just to give you an idea how governments work.
If you're interested in British history and being able to have sort of more modern examples of what you guys all talk about all the time, which is the fact that this history is hidden from us. I mean... People don't believe it. I mean, I was hanging out the other day with a lady who makes documentaries, just as a friend of a friend, and I said, "Look it up. You don't believe me?
I don't great story, wouldn't it?
I didn't believe it when I read it. Now, here's the link. And what's interesting is if you show people the link and it goes straight through to the parliamentary report, they go quiet for 5 minutes, and it's impossible. It's very hard to process. Cognitive dissonance, like you said. You get taught this stuff so young. You just don't want to see it. You don't believe it, and it took me a long time to understand it. But really, what the book tries to do is
break the spell, don't you?
Is just give context, because it becomes, once you understand that these 2 men hated the City of London for killing their dad, and they were ultimately powerful in the country, you can see why they might have done what they did. When they did set fire to London, they probably also spread the plague.
And
they certainly stopped.
helped it along.
Yeah, they're the very, very, very least.
Very least. It does seem we touched on it there about their research into how it was transmitted and the killing of cats.
They were very well informed about plague. The idea that no one knew how the plague worked is just not true. There are some very well informed people who knew, and this is why nutmeg was so expensive.
I'd never understood why nutmeg was so expensive. I thought it was just one of these crazy bubbles like tulips or something.
But actually, if you read back, they say in certain doctors and say if you take this, no insect will bite you. They realised that was useful because they realised
there's a plague.
Flea bites used to accompany plague. They'd noticed this and they thought some bright spark sometime in the Middle Ages thought, well, I'll have some nutmeg. It was the Venetians who originally traded in nutmeg. They could never find where it came from.
Yes, it's out in Indonesia, isn't it?
Yeah, the Portuguese eventually found it, and the Dutch took it from the Portuguese, and the British tried to take it from the Dutch. But that's why nutmeg was a thing, because it saved you from having plague. But they didn't tell. They didn't tell the likes of us that.
Well, the likes of us couldn't have afforded it anyway. So if you start stockpiling, a lot of people have started stockpiling already. For the COVID-19, get your nutmeg in. Get your proper, genuine nutmeg. Don't know this. A lot of these modern jars of herbs and that they mix it with stuff.
You can in the book.
You don't want the cut stuff. You want the proper chunks.
In the book, I do reference a couple of modern medical studies that prove that nutmeg. Like people have sat in rooms having had nutmeg full of insects and they just won't get bitten. Stuff like that. I mean, they've proven.
And when the travel restrictions are back off, Rob has volunteered to go to some malaria-ridden part of West Africa.
Sounds like fun.
Pumped full of nutmeg, with taking no jabs or anything.
Oh no! You know what? Well, I trust nutmeg more than I trust a vaccine for COVID-19.
There we go. Thank you, Robert. Yes, more hidden history exposed. Yeah, I know Robert's a proud Welsh when we go around together as well, and this is the thing that Wilson Blackett go on about as well. This isn't really a nationalistic thing, as Rob knows. It's not an English v Welsh or anything like that, or Welsh Scottish. The point is, we've all been lied to, and we've got I don't know what you think of the other history. Is whatever, yeah. Well done, Rob. Yeah, thank you, John. Yeah, it's an amazing book. He's a very good writer as well. I won't embarrass him too much. Right, I just want to get back to our. Thank you very much, Rob.
Mate,
thank you very much indeed. Thank you for joining me. Yes.
Yeah, tomorrow I'm getting taken up. Recyson.
Oh, Recyson, that's it. Yeah. I almost forgot. My goodness.
I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
I got a proper geek on when I saw that video of you going up there.
Well, you can see it out the window. It's not very far. Walking up, it's a bit of a slog, but he's fitter than me. He's all right. My legs are still recovering from the last. I've to be walking every day, which is supposed to be good for you. So if it's so good for me, why do I feel so tired? Let's use a polite word. Yeah. Which brings me on very quickly. Thank you for that. The last two items. I know we've run over. I won't keep it too long because oh my goodness, 25 past. First one is Robert. You'll see when I'll put some clips of the book up soon as well. You can get an idea of the style. It's very powerful. I was very impressed with the writing style and everything. And Robert's very kindly come on board to do the writing basically of. We're going to do. We talked a few times on here about doing a graphic novel representation of the life of King Arthur. So we're working together on that. It's one of the reasons we're together now. We're going to spend a few days going through the timelines, which I've been working with. Robert Pierce, old Lego there, he's done a good job on this with me. Reading the work. Always open to hear more about it.
Yes.
Because it's a massive story. And it's probably going to be... Well, I keep mentioning Star Wars. I'm sorry, people. It's not... I'm not.
Just get over. There are other films. Other films are available.
Other films are available. That's right. But the format. We're following a similar profile. Not because I'm such a geek on Star Wars. I'm not really. Arnie's the one, as you know. But the point is, we're going to start on part 4. If you remember, like A New Hope. So we're going to go straight in with the story of Arthur. If you read Wilson and Blackett's The Walking, for example, you get a lot about the previous history. The betrayal of the Long Knives and their father Morris and Tithfalts and the crossing of the river and Mathan and all that kind of stuff. Well, we'll probably do that as parts 1, 2 and 3, which might come later because we want to get straight into Arthur. And then we'll go through that all the way up to 6. And then, so it'll be 4, 5, 6. And then the probably rubbish ones that come afterwards then.
Yeah, we'll by that point we'll have moved to CGI. Point for me is I want to...
jump in, yeah.
The Arthur story again is just amazing history and it's documented, and no one can
Robert's a great researcher. He's a better researcher than I am. He actually's gone back and he's prepared to read all the Geoffrey and Monmouth and all original documents. It's coming slightly differently, but nothing fundamentally different to what you see Wilson Black in, is it?
No,
it's all backed up, isn't it?
The amazing thing is, there's this incredible historical figure who had amazing reputation that was deliberately, I guess, erased by the powers that be because it was inconvenient. But
I think in this case, it's more stolen, wasn't it? They kind of stole the story.
Yeah,
I think it was too big to erase it.
And remixed it. And put it in.
I think they'd love to have re-erased it, but it's just because it was such a big story. You couldn't.
Yeah.
This is what Wilson Black is saying. You couldn't go away. You had to
all the sort of Holy Grail stuff.
So then you've got to muddy the waters.
Yeah, I mean, for me, what I want, when we get this graphic novel done and it's out there, I want everyone to read it. My aim is to get everyone to want to walk up Rhys Sison, because from my point of view, that is an incredible space, somewhere that was built over 1,000 years as a kind of a last defence, and it was used to devastating effect, which is why there were so many Saxons left.
So you got the Bridge of the Saxons, and they buried them there.
Yeah. And
if you don't know the story of Horteful's raid, go on to the walk. If you look at reorg, see now we've got more members, more subscribers. Please get some more. We're so near to 1,950. We are going to do a special episode when we get to 1,000. Have a look down, you'll see the walking videos in a row. And you got Horteful's raid, my wonderful German accents. And that's where they got drawn onto Rhys Sison, where they smashed them up, as you can hear about there.
I mean, it's an amazing
and it's a good climb as well.
It's an amazing true story, and we want to turn that history into something sort of compelling. So 15-year-old, like with Star Wars, you want to aim at 12, 15-year-old boys.
Yeah, but I'd also enjoy it.
Yeah. But it's just that idea of making a compelling story out of it, because it is an amazing bit of history.
Yes, it is. So one of the things I want to do, if you remember, I forgot last week, because 2 weeks ago I had this was on the screen. This is, so we've got a bit of a lag there, Rob, you have to wait for it to come up. It's a bit slow. We will see it on that screen in a second, hopefully. God, that's a long lag. But 20 seconds today, so sorry if I'm missing your comments. You have one last chance to guess at this. We had 1, 2, 3. 3 people got this correct. This is going to be Guggen Mawr, who was he's a great story because he is the king of North Wales. I'm using a very loose use of that term. He was a school colleague of Arthur, and he had a small petty kingdom in North Wales, but he was reckoned to be the biggest man in Wales. He's a giant of a man, and frightening. And he basically carved himself out his own little empire in North Wales, so he became the King of Gwynedd, I think he titled himself. But after the time of Arthur, he was still going, and that's when Wales started going downhill, as one way of looking at it. Because then, with Arthur out the way, he was still alive, he claimed to be the supreme king of everywhere. And of course, the southern Welsh kings wouldn't accept him. And they said, right, you're on your own. And that once they were split, the south and the north, then the north got picked off, and the rest is history, as they say. But Mike, I've drawn this for our, what's going to be our animated book, or illustrated book, or what do you call it, graphic novel. We're going to sort out the format, got some ideas. Who's this? Who did I use to draw as the biggest man in Wales? Anyone last chance to guess online? So I've got this massive 20-second lag. Thank you, Lawrence, there. Okay. So the point of this guy, anyway, this is, if you don't recognise my artwork there, there's someone called Derwin Jones. Derwin Jones, Lighthouse Derwin. He played for Wales. He's basically picked out from a very young age. He's just so damn tall. We don't have enough tall people in Wales at the time. He's about 6'10" or something. He's a big, frightening guy, and I do him a disservice because he actually wasn't a bad rugby player either. But it's fair to say, if he hadn't been 6'10", he wouldn't have got many caps. I think that's a reasonable comment. But as I say, he's a lot bigger than me, and Derwin, if you're out there, I think you're fantastic, okay? And if ever you want to come on this show, we'll do it remotely. Not face to face. Terrify me. Alright, so that's all that's coming along. Just let you know on there. Yeah, so please send through for Alan. Send me messages. If you can make a card and send us an attachment, anything like that, I'll print everything off. I'll either go up there and take it with me and share the love, or I will print it out and post it. Alright, either way. Now I'm just going to do a quick little bonus clip here, just to, because Rob hasn't seen this either, no one's seen this. This is some more drone footage from David. So thank you for that. This is the last 5-10 minutes before I wrap up. Sorry we've run over. We started a bit late, but there we are. It's very interesting. Rob, I don't think we could cut that any shorter. This is up near, it's just off the side of Mynydd Baden. Look at this, fantastic. So we were there, God, was it yesterday? Seems like weeks ago. The days are so long at the moment. We're up early and we're running around. So look at these fantastic, these are battle trenches. So they filled in a bit over the years. I mean, I know, there might have been a battle there in the 890s, as well as, or instead of Baden. Depends who you talk to, all right? But even if it was 890s, still 1,100-year-old trenches. So what we're trying to do, and if you want to get involved and help, please, 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 please do. We already got Bob, Tim, Rob, the other Hugh Evans. I know we got Hugh Evans commenting tonight. Hugh's fantastic. I talk to Hugh all the time. I want to hear all about CADW, Hugh. I know you've been up there doing your own research. Fantastic. There's another Hugh Evans who was the first one to take us up there and show us all the trenches and everything. And he seems to have disappeared. So I hope he's all right. I hope he's fine. Now, one of the great things with the drone, you can see here, these battlements go on and on and on. There are some gaps at the top of the screen. Then a bit further down it continues. And you can see it's very clear that their farmer has, ploughed and destroyed it. And there's lots of things. If you can see my arrow, I've tried. Someone did ask me to get a bigger arrow this week, which I'll try to do. I haven't done it yet. Over this side is more mounds. Over here. Now, just to get your bearings, if you want to do the super long walk, you come all the way down there, round, 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 round. You can follow what we think is the path of the battle. And the main battle is right over the far left. Which hopefully has some footage of that as well. I'm going to give you an idea of how big this area is. Because I think when people are... film references again. Films are useful because they're very visual, aren't they? And if you watch the end of Lord of the Rings Part 3... Have you seen the Lord of the Rings films?
Yeah.
Yeah, the stand with Aragorn and that hill outside the gates of Mordor.
Yeah, yeah.
One day we may lose, one day orcs might run the world. This is not that day. And they'll go running off.
He goes full Richard Burton, doesn't he?
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
this is not that day.
Yeah, it's a bit Shakespearean, isn't it? You're right, actually. Yeah.
I thought he was channeling Burton.
Channeling Burton, Richard Burton.
Yes.
I don't remember. I thought Laurence Olivier was Henry V. You're thinking of, aren't you?
No, I was trying to do Burton. Sorry.
No, but I just wanted Richard Burton. Did he do that speech?
Yeah.
Did
No.
I was thinking Laurence Olivier, Henry V. more. No.
Fair enough. Good.
No, I'm all right. Richard Burton.
You can't go wrong with Shakespeare.
Well, funny that we could do the whole thing about Shakespeare.
You want to do the thing about Shakespeare?
Oh, I've got to very quickly chuck something in.
Oh, this is funny.
This is funny, isn't it?
If you're interested in documentation, Shakespeare couldn't even cite William Shakespeare, the man who we were told wrote all those plays.
The person who's supposed to be Shakespeare, let's call it that, shall we?
Yeah, well, his name, he couldn't sign his own name. You see it on legal documents. There are only 6 signatures by William Shakespeare, and he couldn't sign his own name. So there's no way a man who couldn't sign his own name wrote all the greatest works of... wrote the greatest
plays. That is
plays.
funny, isn't it? Yeah, I did a little cartoon as well, didn't I? Well, it's your idea, I just draw them. Robert channels through me.
So, the point being that if you're... I introduced this fact at the beginning of my book, because if you're not going to follow the evidence, then there's no point reading anything or trying to learn anything. The point being that Shakespeare, when you look at it, when people examined it, he couldn't sign his own name. If you can't control a pen to sign your own name, you can't write 36 great works of fiction.
They were supposed to be perfect first time as well, weren't they?
Oh, yeah.
There's no roughs or anything, is there? All kinds of legends and myths.
Yeah, it's nonsense.
So I don't interrupt the drone footage. I'm going to interrupt the drone footage. 1 second. Oh, this is going to be so good now.
It's timed out perfectly.
This is where I need a producer now, because on the one hand I'm going to show you my little funny cartoon, because you're all going to think it's brilliant. And then at the same time...
You've got to press buttons.
Yeah, I got to get rid of this. I'll put the next bit of drone footage on, courtesy of David Mosley. I always call him David Mosley's better, isn't it? And see there this Shakespeare running away, because of course they're autograph hunters and he can't write his name. So it's a very good point, So much what we're taught. We have to break the spell. You have to break this spell.
It's something like that. We get told...
Oh, poor Talbot boy. You want to hear more of my Richard Burton accent? My father coached me when I was young to talk like Richard Burton. He thought I should talk like this all the time, really. Oh, hang on. I'm missing the video. Let's go back. I'm going to rewind my drone. It's a scene of death and turmoil. No, I'm not going to start from again. Right, these are some of the... We're actually on Maes Cadlar now, the field of battle. So you've never been to what we're claiming to be... the battlefield I say we, Wilson and Blackett and other people have tracked this down. The place is called Mynydd Baden, which means Baden Mount, or Mount Baden, which is the name of the battle. You've seen some of the trenches. These are some of the burial mounds. It's very sad. You really feel the aura about it. What's the right word? I don't know, it sort of sucks the noise.
Atmosphere.
Yeah, even the birds don't seem to sing very loud. It's you find there's a lot on battlefields.
Roughly how big is that mound?
Well, the field itself.
Well, it's the mound, but...
Oh, the mounds. They're not enormous mounds. I think they've probably got smaller over time.
Yeah.
But each one of these is probably... I'm notoriously bad at distances, but I would say it's about 60 feet, by about 80 feet, something like that. They're not huge.
So quite a few people in there.
Oh, yeah, a lot of people. But the other thing to bear in mind, I know people say, well, this is the mound, and that's the mound. There's quite a few. So if someone died like a mile or two away, if there's a big scrap here, you wouldn't drag all the bodies back necessarily. And there's lots of things. This whole area needs proper archaeology, because you've got things like this. What's this down there? And I missed a bit down there. There seems to be what they call linear features, which look like trenches. So David's did a brilliant job panning around. And what you're getting like a feel for, what we're trying to do, like I said, with the drones and the research and the documents, is try and work out a path of the battle. Because if you go on Wikipedia or something like that, amazingly, if you see my video, I already talked about this, this isn't on the list of possible sites even. It's amazing. It's quite remarkable, really. There's sites all over Britain, but not one where King Arthur was most likely to have been. So there's lots of features there which we can research.
Well, one thing that really gets me is that I think it was 1130 or something that Geoffrey of Monmouth wrote the Arthur story down. It was less than 50 years later that Henry II had started faking the Glastonbury thing. So this story has been sort of fought over for nearly 1,000 years.
This is one of the stories I wanted to run on to. What's the name? I think it might still be on my other computer. I'm really trying to run two computers at once now. I had this lined up to watch. It's called... no, it's not there. Hang on. What's the thing I was watching? Anyway, there's the... I'll put up a link to it. It's there. There's an archaeology... proper archaeology report coming back. They've been doing years and years and years of research. Very pleasant lady doing a presentation on Glastonbury. Oh, sorry, things like this. These features here. So we'll look at the field and that. Like, if you go to my video, I give directions how to go there and have a look for yourself. It's like an eerie feeling, I think. I felt a similar thing when I went to see El Alamein, to the graveyards there and stuff. You see all these linear features and stuff? This gives you an implication of how... It seems to be the whole thing's in the battlements. And again, it can be more mounds over here, so it's... it needs more research, it really does. It's a very tragic kind of place to go to. Anyway, what I was saying then... I lost my track completely then. Look at these battlefields. What's on then?
Were you saying you had
the Glastonbury hoax, that was it, sorry.
Right. Oh, nice one, yeah.
Yeah. I sorry, because there's
it's a
formal archaeological report, and she was basically explaining how she said, I couldn't believe it. This is a proper archaeological report, right? Official one. Carry on watching the film. And they said, well, we know, she said, that everything was faked in the 12th, 13th centuries, but this is the opening part of the thing.
Yeah. Well, the thing that gets me is the king was concerned that this Arthur story was sort of building up a national identity or whatever you like in the West.
Right.
So he asks his cousin, who's the abbot of Glastonbury, to have a dig. And lo and behold, they find these enormous bones that are definitely the bones of King Arthur, who was definitely here. It's also...
And Joseph of Arimathea, even though there was no... If they really stretch it, they reckon they can go back to 700 AD or 600 odd. But that's strange, because it's not even Saxon then anyway. Oh yes, 2010. Oh my goodness, way past bedtime, everyone. But anyway, I was going to talk about that tonight, but Rob's here, so we talked about other things. But it's fascinating to see that even though we know it's all fake, the remains of over 300 saints are supposed to be there.
Where?
Glastonbury. There's this incredible collection of everything. Joseph of Arimathea, all the legends, they just put it all in. They needed to raise money for the new roof. Henry II wanted to be King of Britain.
Yeah.
Everything had to be done, and it's still promoted. Even in an official academic archaeological thing, they talk about the legends. Now this influenced archaeologists and their conclusions, but they still don't just say, so it's obviously somewhere else then, which is the line you never hear.
What you'll never hear is it was this side of the 7. If you
Therefore, yeah, 7
yeah,
aside just kicks in.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Well, there's some more. I hope you're enjoying that. Sorry, I don't have the music on this computer. I've had to change because I've realised the graphic card and everything's better on here. As you know, when I used to do things like this, it would all stall and stop and judder and all this kind of thing because my little notebook computer does not have the power to run this. So we got graphic cards and stuff on this big computer. So there's all the sheep. See if you can see what the sheep say. The sheep usually spell letters when I look at them. I can't see any this time. It's a bit like cloud gazing.
Yeah,
gazing.
I think the letters aren't really there, Ross. It's
not this time. Or shapes. You see rabbits.
If
you freeze it and draw
what's going on in the middle, that there's only that one sheep, and then they're all.
Tragically, there's 2 sheep in the middle actually, and they're both dead.
Oh dear. Okay.
We found 2 sheep carcasses in the trenches. I don't know what that's about. But yeah, well spotted. Yeah, tragically, that was a very unpleasant sight, actually. Oh yeah, there's the linear feature. Perfect. Well done, David. Thank you again. And God, was good to see you. Have a safe journey back to Deutschland, if they let you out the country. If you don't let you out the country, you have to come back here. Yes, these linear features, what they're about. Whoa, little spin. That's not David's fault. And this up here, where David was looking a lot, we got more potential mounds, something potentially of interest here. And this is Money Baden. Right, now, normally, I'm very slick and professional, and I start fading in the music from Baron Blackett. I am going to say goodnight now. You're not going to miss any more. Sorry it's run on so long. I think it was good value. Talk about value, yeah, please help us get to 1,000 subs. We're almost there. And if you want to chip in a few pounds a month in Patreon, that would really help. Because, as you're going to see in the next few weeks, we have some big plans and big ideas. We're going to be setting up a proper trust, some sort of charitable foundation, so that we can all have donations and we can build the thing up. I don't want stuff given to me in my name on this basis. And if we get assets and things, it's all going to be above board of the committee and all that, and make sure there's some longevity. The life of Wilson and Blackett's work, particularly, and all his Britain's hidden history, has a sort of vehicle which it can be kept in for posterity, definitely for future generations anyway. So there we go. So you've got to imagine some music now, all right? And I'll say thank you very much, Robert.
Thanks very much for being here.
Yeah, thanks everyone. You've been great comments tonight. I'm going to have good fun going back through, scrolling through my Monica. So I've seen lots popping up with Monica on it. And I'm sorry I haven't had a chance to say hello. I need some footage of Wales for my videos too. Yep, no problem at all, Monica. I will quite happily... yeah, we swap emails and everything. And I will send you some, what do you want, this kind of drone footage. Well, we'll talk about that. Air Trust's a good way to go, yeah, glad everyone agrees, yeah, because as I keep saying again, I love the support, all the wonderful comments I get. And I realise I've become a bit of a front man for this, but it is Britain's hidden history and it's all of us. It's a team thing. And I've got more videos being sent through by other people, which I'm going to be putting on here. People like Rob turning up is fantastic. So the more the merrier. Get stuck in, do some work. And let's keep it going for the next generation. So until the next time, I always say peace, which is Heddwch. You say Heddwch.
Heddwch, sorry.
Well, that's not a bad effort for a Londoner, was it? That's what I'll do then. Like, oh, that's pretty good, mate. I wasn't being patronising. Well, kind of patronising.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. You speak English beautifully, dear.
Yeah. Well, whatever that language is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see, this is... Well, I'll tell you what, I'll just spoil everyone. We have finished. There's no more content. I know people get upset because they think I've finished and I do another false ending and people think they've missed something. I will just put another bit of David's drone footage up, okay? Again, it's from Maes Cadlow, the battlefield from Money Baden. And if this is my computer, I would also have... Hang on, just pause a second. I am going to try and put some music on because I downloaded the music. Where's it gone? There's a few of me singing in the church thing. That might be quite fun. Here we go. There we go. So a bit of this is supposed to be played at the beginning of the show. It's going to be a bit weird now. Anyway, we'll give it a go, alright? Just so we got some music to go out on. Don't be too loud. Slow it down, turn it on a bit. Alright, okay. Hang on. See, you can see all the magic is on here, Rob, can't you? Oh, too loud. Sorry, folks. Sorry. I can't get that. Hang on. You know, I'll just say goodnight to everyone. You can watch the video while the music rolls. Everyone loves a bit of My cousin Neil calls this, what's it called, progressive rock. Does he call it that?
Yeah.
He calls it other things as well, like I can't say that on a Sunday evening. He's not a fan.
Okay.
So there's the grave mounds. It's not very appropriate for graves like this music.
It's a bit jolly.
It's a bit jolly, isn't it? Yeah. Sorry. Oh well. It is a bit jolly, isn't it? They just enjoy their view, as they say. Can we go full screen? Hang on, there won't be a minute. They would have to look at us walking around, backing up. No, they're not getting there. Sorry, I'm just checking. You're getting there. No, it's going to have to be like this, Russ. Oh yeah, that's right. I think you're going to hate me messing about with this. I'm trying to work with my boys' video setup that they use for their games.
Right.
And they're all busy this evening. They got to bed as well. School's back on, so. I'll run this one more time, okay? Because I interrupted it. Fantastic footage, isn't it? It's great. Yeah, well. Okay, good night. I'm definitely unplugging the microphone now. Goodbye, all. I'll let it run a bit longer so you can say goodbye in the comments. Thanks very much, everybody. We've had so many people. It's been wonderful tonight. Hang on. What are the strings on your wrist? Not what? Talmudic whatever. No, nothing silly, Harry. They're a present for my children for my birthday. Hang on. These bangly things on my arm, okay? Just so you know, they're a present for my children. They said, "What do you want for Christmas? Of your birthday, Daddy?" Because it's my birthday last week. And I said, "I don't care as long as you make it. Don't spend any money on me. I want you to make it, all right?" And they've knitted these things, a little round, with a bit of card. So, no, nothing super significant. So, just that, all right? Just a present for my little boys.
Yeah.
And there's another one. They're all in Welsh colours, actually. They made another one somewhere. Oh, I shouldn't say somewhere, should I? My cherished gift. Another cherished gift. It's supposed to be sitting right here. And the dangly bits will be gone, because Angie's going to sew it on, so I don't... You see another one there, Rob? Yeah, well, it's there, honest, because it's very important to me. So it's just, it'll all be tidied up and sewn on properly, like the one which I was given last year, which is almost frayed off, you see. This will last a year, that's the idea. There we go. Anyway, good night all.